Panasonic TVs 2018, every Panasonic model and series number explained. If you're looking at a Panasonic TV and you don't know what all the numbers mean, we've got you covered. Here's all you need to know before you buy one. What follows is a comprehensive breakdown of the entire 2018 Panasonic TV lineup. I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek in January at CES 2018, where the Panasonic FZ950 and FZ800 series 4K OLED models were unveiled. Here is everything else, but first here are some things you ought to know. Hollywood uses Panasonic's OLED TVs. The Panasonic EZ1000 OLED was not only tuned by professional studio colorists, it is used at many Hollywood post-production facilities to color-grade films. That means you can buy the very model of TV that was used to work on some of the biggest recent releases, such as Wonder Woman. Every model released in 2018 will be compatible with high dynamic range, even the lower-end HD ones. Last year, Sony was the only company to do this, and I'm glad to see Panasonic is doing it too. It makes sense. HDR is a more impactful upgrade than 4K resolution in many ways, and we're now seeing more non-4K HDR content. Star Trek Discovery is a recent example. The 4K models not only support HDR, they support HDR10, which uses dynamic metadata to optimize the HDR performance scene by scene. Amazon Prime Video is a supporter of HDR10, along with 20th Century Fox. All of the LED LCD models are edge-lit designs, and most of those in 43, 49 and 55 inches use IPS panels. The company is 100 years old in 2018. Happy birthday, Panasonic. Related, best 4K TVs. Now let's look at some 2018 TVs. Prices haven't been confirmed, but I expect to find out that info near the release window in April. I'll leave my 2017 coverage at the bottom of this article, as many of those models are still in shops. A quick way to decipher these numbers is as follows. Panasonic is using FZ to label this year's top TVs, the 4K OLED models. FX is for the 2018 4K LED LCD models, a step down in the range. FS is for the lower tier models going up to 1080p. All of the 2018 models can be identified by the F in the model number, so it follows that E is for 2017 and anything labeled D is from 2016. Panasonic 2018 to 4K Ultra HD OLED TVs. Panasonic EZ1000 series 77 inches. The EZ1000 series was Panasonic's top model of 2017, and it's still so good it will continue to be sold into 2018, albeit only at the largest size of 77 inches. The EZ1000 isn't only tuned by Hollywood, it is used by Hollywood professionals. So if color accuracy is your thing, this model is hard to beat. It's also armed with a Technics-tuned soundbar, so it's not just the picture that's worth shouting about. Read our review of the 65-inch version below. Review: Panasonic TX65EZ1002, Panasonic FZ950 series 55 and 65 inches, Panasonic TX55FZ952, Panasonic TX65FZ952 to the Panasonic FZ950 series is the successor to the EZ1000. Aesthetically it's a very similar offering. You get a Technics-tuned soundbar and the absolute black filter for minimizing reflections and unwanted ambient light. Under the hood, the improvements are more subtle. The new panel is similar, but processing is better optimized, resulting in a brighter picture. Dark performance has been improved too, with more precise control over shadow detail than before, even at extremely low black levels. The soundbar isn't more powerful than on the EZ1000, but it sounds richer. Panasonic FZ800 series 55 and 65 inches, Panasonic TX55FZ802, Panasonic TX65FZ802. This is literally what happens when you take the FZ950 series and replace the soundbar stand with a regular plinth stand. Other than that, the specs and performance are identical. A good way to save some cash if you have an existing sound system and don't need audio reinforcement. Related, Panasonic's new FZ950 and FZ800 4K OLED TVs are the closest thing to Hollywood in your home. Panasonic 2018 4K Ultra HD LED LCD TVs. Panasonic FX750 series, FX780 in Europe, 49, 55, 65 and 75 inches. Panasonic TX49 FX750, Panasonic TX55 FX750, Panasonic TX65 FX750, Panasonic TX75 FX750. This is the premium LED LCD model in the range. Why is it premium? Firstly, there is the fancy art interior design, which translates to a one-sheet glass body and a minimalist central plinth. The 75-inch one doesn't get that, it's too big for glass and uses a lot of metal instead. Then there's the fact that it shares the same HCX processor found in the flagship OLED models. That means some gorgeous colors and good contrast management. Finally, it has the best dimming tech out of the LED LCD models. These are all edgelit models, which use a combination of physical zonal dimming and software-based digital dimming. The FX750 gets better digital dimming than the models below it. Oh, and this is the only LED LCD model with a native 100Hz panel. Panasonic FX740 series, 49, 55 and 65 inches. Panasonic TX49 FX740, Panasonic TX55 FX740, Panasonic TX65 FX740. The FX740 series looks nearly identical to the FX750, but it loses out on the advanced digital dimming and the HCX processor. That means its contrast and colors won't be quite as good, although it supports the same wide color spectrum as all the models above it. This model and those below it use a native 50Hz panel. In the UK, the Panasonic FX740 series is exclusive to Currys. Related, best TVs. Panasonic FX700 series, 49, 55 and 65 inches. Panasonic TX49 FX700, Panasonic TX55 FX700, Panasonic TX65 FX700. We're now far enough down the range that the art interior fancy design quirks no longer apply. The glass body has been swapped for a more conventional one that uses metal. The central pedestal is no more, and instead you get separate feet. Thankfully, those feet can be repositioned. Set them far apart if you have a wide bench, or put them at the center if you don't. Panasonic FX650 series, 43, 49, 55 and 65 inches. Panasonic TX43 FX60, Panasonic TX49 FX650, Panasonic TX55 FX650, Panasonic TX65 FX650. Now we enter entry-level territory for the 4K Ultra HD models. You still get the switchable feet, but you lose the local dimming. Instead, this set will use an adaptive backlight dimming, which essentially adjusts the brightness and contrast depending on the content. Panasonic 2018 Full HD and HD Ready LED LCD TVs. Panasonic FS500 series, 24, 32, 40 and 49 inches. Panasonic TX24 FS50, Panasonic TX32 FS503, Panasonic TX40 FS503, Panasonic TX49 FS503. As much as I love talking about massive 4K TVs, the smaller HD TV market is still going strong. This is a good option if you're not fussed about chasing the latest specs or if you want a second TV in the home. This model is pretty basic, but it does at least offer Smart TV, with Netflix supposed to boot up in 10 seconds. Only the 40 and 49-inch versions are Full HD 1080p. The 24 and 32-inch ones are HD Ready 720p. Related, best cheap TVs. Panasonic FS400 series, 32 and 40 inches. Panasonic TX32 FS40, Panasonic TX40 FS40. Here we have the bottom of the entire range. This looks similar to the FS500 series, but there is no online functionality. And that's it for the Panasonic TVs to be released in 2018. Read on for the 2017 models, some of which are still available in shops. Panasonic 2017 TV model number guide EZ1002 EZ1000 outside the UK 77 and 65 inches EZ950 to EZ950 outside the UK 65 and 55 inches DX902 2016 model continues in 2017 to 65 and 58 inches DX800 2016 model continues in 2017 to 58 and 50 inches EX750 EX780 in Europe 75, 65, 58 and 50 inches EX765, 58, 50 and 40 inches EX665, 55, 49 and 40 inches ES549, 40, 32 and 24 inches ES449, 40 and 32 inches Panasonic TX77 EZ1002, TX65 EZ1002. This was the first of Panasonic's 2017 TVs to be announced. It's the company's second OLED, the follow-up to the hugely successful EZ950 from 2015. It has double the peak brightness, going up to 1000 nits. It uses Panasonic's top-tier Studio Color HCX2 processor, which is accurate enough to be used in a Hollywood color grading environment. Its absolute black filter absorbs stray ambient light and minimizes reflections, and it also has a speaker bar tuned by Panasonic's Technics division. Read our verdict. Panasonic TX65 EZ1002 review. Panasonic EZ952 Panasonic TX65 EZ952 TX55 EZ952. In a surprise move, Panasonic announced it has a second OLED up its sleeve. The EZ952 is very similar to the EZ1002. It uses the same panel and the same Studio Color HCX2 processor. It doesn't have the absolute black filter and soundbar base, though. Perhaps most importantly, this range sees Panasonic offer OLED in a more accessible 55-inch variant. Read our verdict. Panasonic TX65 EZ952 review. Panasonic TX65 DX902, TX58 DX902, TX58 DX802, TX50 DX802. The DX902 and DX802 series were the top two performers in Panasonic's 2016 lineup. They will continue to be sold in 2017. We've tested both and you can read our findings here. Panasonic TX65 DX902 review. Panasonic TX58 DX802 review. Panasonic EX750 Panasonic TX75 EX750 TX65 EX750 TX58 EX750 TX50 EX750 as the top-tier LCDs from 2016 continue to be sold this year. Panasonic's 2017 LED LCD range begins in the middle tier. The EX750 is the top model of this middle tier. It has a peak brightness of around 550 nits, but it also uses the same Studio Color HCX2 processor found in the premium OLED models. It is an edge-lit LCD. None of Panasonic's 2017 4K TVs are direct lit. It uses a new local dimming approach. Local dimming tends to involve splitting the lighting into zones to separate the light and dark areas, but Panasonic says it has found a way to manipulate the LCD panel itself and limit light bleeds. The idea is to maximize the level of contrast you typically get from an LCD TV. The EX750 has a curious swivel and lift design, which does exactly as it suggests. You'll be able to adjust the TV's height and the direction it faces. Well, the 58-inch and 50-inch versions, anyway. The 65-inch version only has the swivel element and the 75-inch version doesn't move at all. Last and least, the EX750 is the only model in the entire range to support 3D. It uses the active shutter system. Demand for 3D has dwindled to the point where most manufacturers just don't bother anymore, but you may want to look at this model if you've invested heavily in 3D Blu-rays. Check out our verdict. Panasonic EX750 review. Panasonic EX700 Panasonic TX65 EX700 TX58 EX700 TX50 EX700 TX40 EX700. The EX700 is a step down from the EX750 and doesn't get quite as bright, around 350 nits, I'm told. It loses out on its big brother's Studio Color HCX2 processor but keeps the same local dimming tech as the EX750. It's still capable of a wide color spectrum, however, and promises 90% of the DCI color spectrum. It doesn't have the fancy lift and swivel stand, instead settling on flexibly positioned metal feet. You have them face forwards or backwards, depending on your brand of interior design. More importantly, you can position them near the center or near the corners of the TVs, which is good for people without massive bench-style AV racks. Panasonic EX600, Panasonic TX65, EX600, TX55, EX600, TX49, EX600, TX40, EX600. This is the entry level for 4K. The EX600 has the same brightness as the EX700, about 350 nits, but loses out on the advanced local dimming tech. You also lose out on the wide color spectrum. So why would you consider this series? Well, this is the first time Panasonic has brought the larger screen sizes lower down in the range, and that means you can have more pixels for less. As with the EX700, the EX600 offers flexible stand positioning. Panasonic ES500, Panasonic TX49, ES50, TX40, ES50, TX32, ES50, TX24, ES50. That's it for 4K and HDR. These models offer standard dynamic range and only go up to 1080p. But this end of the market is still healthy, and these models make for great second TVs, especially if you want a more affordable one for the bedroom. These are LED LCD panels, and they are all full HD 1080p, except for the 32-inch models and smaller, which are HD ready at 768p. Panasonic ES400, Panasonic TX49, ES40, TX40, ES40, TX32, ES40. The ES400 is very similar to the ES500, but the key difference is panel speed. Panasonic says the ES500 has a backlight motion rate of 600 Hz but 400 Hz for the ES400. Both of them offer internet connectivity and smart TV, which is nice because the bottom models often get passed over for this sort of thing. Which new Panasonic TV tickles your fancy? Share your favorite with us at Trusted Reviews.